Before we begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that we're gathered on the traditional lands of Treaty 7 and that Banff National Park also covers Treaty 6 and 8. These lands are home to the Earhare Nakota Nations, Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Goodstoney, the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina Nation, the Métis Nation of Alberta, and many others whose stories and connections to this place run deep. As someone who is so fortunate to call this place home, I recognize that the ability to live, work, and enjoy these incredible landscapes comes from a history that has had real impact on Indigenous peoples through displacement, loss of access, and broken relationships. We're grateful to be here today, and we carry a responsibility to keep learning, to listen to Indigenous voices, and to do our part in building relationships that honor both the land and the people who've always been its caretakers. Welcome to Between Peaks, the podcast where we explore stories, ideas, and people shaping the life in the Bow Valley. I'm Nancy DaDalt, and today we're diving into the heart of community philanthropy, what a community foundation really is, and the role it plays in helping our region thrive. At its core, the Banff Canmore Foundation is a bridge between vision and action, between the challenges we see and the hope we want to build. Joining me today is Laurie Edward, Executive Director of Banff Canmore Foundation. She's going to share how community foundations help generosity take root, not just for today, but for generations to come. She reminds us that generosity is not a moment, it's a movement. In this episode, we'll explore what community foundations actually do, dispel a few myths about philanthropy, and talk about how every gift, no matter the size, helps build the future of the Bow Valley. Laurie, welcome to Between Peaks.
Thank you.
We said a community foundation is really about connection, connecting people to purpose, resources to needs, and generosity to long-term impact. Let's start there. How would you describe what a community foundation actually does to someone hearing about this movement for the first time?
We say that we connect generous people to the projects and initiatives that have the greatest potential and are having the greatest impact in service to community in the Bow Valley. So we are continuously connecting generous people with opportunities to make a difference in community. And we do that by establishing funds, running grant programs, doing research to really understand community challenges and issues, and identifying opportunities for philanthropic impact.
Amazing. And what makes the Banff Canmore Foundation unique in how it connects people and ideas across such a diverse region of the Bow Valley and even a little bit beyond?
Mm-hmm. So some people may be familiar with the Community Foundation through one aspect of what we do. Maybe through a grant or an initiative or a report, maybe even a fund. But actually what makes a community foundation unique is the connection between all of those aspects. That's what makes a community foundation able to be agile and responsive when a need emerges in community. It also allows us to hang in for the long haul to address issues and opportunities that are long-lasting and persistent. And it allows us to help people who want to make a difference now find opportunities to do that, and also to help people establish legacy contributions that will continue to have impact into the future, maybe even into perpetuity.
Mm-hmm. So the short and the long term.
The short and the long term, the immediate needs and the longer term needs, and also the opportunities that are co-created by the different people with whom we connect through the different phases of the organization.
Yes. Can you share a story that captures that sense of connection? when it all comes together like you described?
I think one of the best stories is the Jasper wildfire response, actually. And so
And this was last summer.
this was last summer. So in July of 2024, when we were all watching the news so closely, and we realized that that fire was going to cross the boundary into Jasper. And up until that point, we'd been thinking about whether or not we had a role to play. You know, it's outside of our region, generally speaking, which is the Bow Valley. But when that fire crossed into community, we suddenly were very clear that we had a role to play to activate philanthropy in the Bow Valley to support our sister community. And so
Sister community being
our
key.
sister mountain community, and knowing that the people in our community felt an intense need and desire to help folks, and that we could serve by being a local trusted partner in facilitating that. And that's an example of, you know, what a community foundation does. And so we set up a fund. We set up a fund we called it the Rocky Mountain Community Relief Fund. And in a few short months, we raised more than $500,000. And we collaborated with community foundations across Alberta who were doing the same thing in their communities. They were activating local folks who wanted to contribute. Thanks to the Calgary Foundation, who covered our administrative costs, all of that money, 100%.
For that particular project.
For that particular initiative, all that money went directly to people who were impacted by the fire.
Wow.
And then we had these other knock-on effects. We were able to facilitate a significant gift from a Jasper local who wanted to cover the costs of the ice fees for Jasper minor hockey for a year. So we were able to accept that gift, issue a tax receipt, work with partners on the ground to deploy that in the way that aligned with his vision. And now we are working to help deploy the $5 million that tourism industry has pledged to help Jasper recover. So, you know, you can see how the Community Foundation as a platform for these different kinds of contributions. And I think the other thing that story really helps us to be able to see is that, like, right from the outset, because we had made some donor advised grants in that community, we had some relationships, we had some context. We were very early able to determine that we were going to partner with a local organization, the Jasper Community TO Society, to get those gifts to where they were needed most. And so
Using away the money.
So all along the way, we've also been, and we're still at it, we've been helping the Jasper Community Team Society build up their capacity to continue to carry this work forward.
So it's a two-pronged approach that, fantastic. Building capacity and serving the need.
Forming funds, activating philanthropy, and helping to establish the kinds of structure that can support community vitality into the long term.
Incredible. What a great example. What a great example. What does it look like in your experience when a community foundation is at its best?
I think a community foundation is at its best when many, many different kinds of people are involved. That allows a community foundation to draw on the perspectives of people from very different parts of the system, people who experience issues in very different ways. It makes the work better. Not only does it allow us to expand the work, but it also makes the work better. The other thing that I think is a sign that a community foundation is really fulfilling its potential is that folks in community who feel like they have work to do to build community, people who have vision and plans for things that can make the community better, have a sense that the community has their back. They feel confident that they can make plans, optimistic that they can find the resources to implement those plans, and that they can move forward. They feel empowered to move forward. And so we're always working toward that.
Whether that's doing the research, finding out who it is, or actually supporting them with a grant.
Exactly. Whatever the need might be.
Yeah.
And, you know, for us, certainly financial support is at the core, but there are a lot of other things that wrap around that.
Right.
But if, you know, if folks feel optimistic that they can step forward and they can contribute in ways that they want to contribute and that community is going to be behind them, then the Community Foundation, I think, is doing its work.
Fantastic. At its core, the foundation is a bridge between vision and action. And this bridge building has evolved under your leadership. How has the foundation changed or grown under your leadership? Has it been 5 years, Laurie? 6 years?
Well, yeah, let me back up. Yes, I've been here for 5 years. And I think it's interesting for folks to know a little bit more of the history of the organization. So about 23 years ago, a group in Canmore and an independent group in Banff established the first community foundations in the Bow Valley. Eventually, those two organizations would merge and become what Banff Canmore Foundation is today. So in 2003, the first endowed fund was established, the first permanent fund. And that year there were 7 donors.
Wow.
And we made a total of $25,000 in grants.
Wow.
10 years later, for the first time, there were 100 individual donors to community through the Banff Canmore Foundation. If we fast forward to last year we counted 1,500 donors. And for the first time, we made grants more than $1 million in total.
Wow, that is fantastic. What a celebration.
It's been incredible, the growth. And I think in my time is really just a small piece of that. But we are growing. We have an exceptional team. We've made investments in the technology that allows us to efficiently administer an organization that's increasingly complex. And we have expanded and deepened relationships with a broader range of diverse community leaders and community organizers and organizations. So I think over these 5 years, not only have we grown, but we've also become more equipped to continue to facilitate growth of community philanthropy in our community. We're poised now for even more growth. And I'm really quite proud of that.
Fantastic. Laurie, what does it mean to build something that lasts? To think about impact not just for today, but for generations?
Well, I think that we are always building legacy through our actions or our inactions. We have lasting impact. And so as I'm going about this work, I'm always holding the question, are we building something that will become stronger over time? Will it invite more contributions? Will it be fit to evolve and to adapt? And I am so, inspired by the Community Foundation model because it does get stronger with participation. The more participation, the stronger we get. And
you see that in the other foundations that have been around for 100 years.
Oh, absolutely. And we feel it year by year. We feel it as absolutely. We feel that momentum continues to build here. And we're inviting folks to join us in that, to establish and build up their own positive legacy and community, and to do that in relationship with others that are in the same game.
Same game in terms of what is their passion and what is important to them.
In terms of community building, that are in the same journey to build the kind of community that we most want to be a part of, and that want to have the contributions that we make set up future generations for that kind of experience.
And what are some of the pressing issues right now going on in the Bow Valley? What is the Bow Valley facing, and how is the foundation helping to respond to the challenge or the need?
Through our research, and particularly through our vital signs program, we are continuously gathering and sharing knowledge about the critical issues facing the Bow Valley, and also identifying opportunities to be a catalyst for positive change. We're in the midst of publishing a series of issue-based reports. We first published one on housing, and then one on mental health and well-being. We're right now working on an environment report and have plans to do one on tourism reconciliation. And those reports are always illuminate opportunities for us to move the dial with local investments. And so in housing, for example, we've partnered with Mount Royal and the Alberta Real Estate Foundation, the Alberta Real Estate Foundation, to undertake research to see how deed restrictions and covenants could work in an Alberta legal context to create local housing markets, tourism-based communities. We are launching a program to be able to deploy long-term capital that we steward through impact loans to accelerate affordable housing projects. And we're right now exploring ways to help nonprofits access affordable housing for their staff so they can continue to grow and make plans and
not have to worry about that.
And not have to worry about, which is, and it is a major constraint. Not only in the nonprofit sector, of course, but also other, especially local, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, new businesses. So, we know that one of the things we found in our report, too, is that if every single project, that every single iron in the fire that our community has now to bring new affordable housing on board, we still aren't going to get there, right? We are going to be we're going to be, working to address this challenge for a long time. And so as an organization that has a role to play here, we've been really trying to find ways to have an impact. In mental health and well-being, we launched a fund seeded with a handful of contributions from some generous donors, and then that continues to build with contributions that continue to come in, individual contributions to this new fund. And as a result, we've been able to launch a new 3-year grant program.
Wow, that's
which is really focused on supporting grassroots organizations that provide social connectivity in the Bow Valley, and also training opportunities for local grassroots leaders who are plugged into community and can play a role to help folks that they're in contact with navigate and access mental health services. And so, those are the kinds of things that have been identified, and then we can kind of develop these opportunities for philanthropic dollars to make a difference because of the ongoing research that we're doing.
And are some of those mental health grassroots organizations already working and you're lifting them up with this fund?
Absolutely. And in fact, in this particular space, a lot of the really impactful work is being done by organizations that do not have charitable status. And so one of the things that we've been doing is we've just updated our charitable purposes so that we can extend support to organizations that are doing mental health enhancing work in community that cannot write a charitable tax receipt.
So there's all this other work happening in the behind the scenes too, and that ties in a little bit with what you said about being ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Constantly being ready and finding ways to be even more adaptable, flexible and responsive.
How do you balance immediate community needs with long-term sustainability and vision?
It's a really good question, I think, for an organization that aspires to be doing both. And I think for us, it really is about tending both fires. So one way that we do that is as we continue to engage a wider and wider range of donors, every donor has a different timeline for the impact that they want to see in the world. And so when we can facilitate contributions where the donor really wants to see impact now and wants to support current projects, then we can find ways to make that happen in alignment with what their priorities are. And for some folks, they have a longer vision. Maybe they want to see their contribution have an impact over 10 years or maybe into perpetuity. So if we continue to be working with donors where they're at, then we're able to be building capacity and community for both now and future.
Incredible. We talked at the beginning about generosity is not just a moment, it's a movement. What are some of the myths or misconceptions do you hear most about philanthropy or community giving?
Yeah, I think that in our region, we have some different pockets of community and some different stories. And I think that one of the things that I would call out is that sometimes seemingly paradoxical stories can be true, or parallel stories can be true. So, I think a lot of people think about Banff as a place where most residents are transient and folks are here for a while to earn some money and then they move on.
About a good time and just
Some of the time, or that folks are, not everyone sees that in Banff there are many families who've built businesses here, multi-generational families in many cases, who really believe that their prosperity has come from community, that they have a responsibility to community, and they are very generous. Yes, they are very generous contributors to the ongoing vitality and sustainability of the community of Banff. I think another story that doesn't get a lot of play these days in Canmore is that there's a lot of debate around the role of second homeowners and the kind of influence that those folks have on community. And so many of the people who are making significant investments in community vitality are people who came here to Canmore as second homeowners and then really looked to their philanthropic activities to help ground them in community, build authentic relationships, have meaningful lives here. And, I think in addition to thinking about the various challenges of the composition of our communities and who lives in them, we need to celebrate also those contributions.
I think that's a really important myth that you've just busted in Canmore. There's lots of talk about that.
Yeah.
How can everyday people, not just major donors or people that are coming to the end of their careers and or closing or passing their businesses on, what regular people how can they see themselves as part of this movement?
We see our job at Banff Canmore Foundation to craft and co-create opportunities that anyone can see themselves in. So that can be contributing to a fund that maybe aligns with your values on perhaps a very small scale. We work to create funds that will resonate with people who want to contribute potentially at a small scale or a large scale. there are opportunities to volunteer with the community foundation or to put forward a project, find out about the kinds of funding opportunities that we have available and get involved that way. Even many of our donor advised funds are established with quite modest contributions up front, and people often have an aspiration to contribute more as they move through their life stages. And folks who want to get started in their more strategic philanthropy, but don't necessarily have a lot of means to do that right away. I think we really believe that this movement is for all of us, and that if we're doing our job, we are making invitations to people to get involved that meet them right where they're at.
Can you tell me a little bit about what a donor advised fund, what that means?
For sure. So that is where you establish a vehicle to support your philanthropic contributions over time. Folks often set up a donor advised fund if they know that they're going to have differences in their tax responsibilities over a period of years. So if you know that you're going to be facing more of a tax bill in 1 year, then you might want to heavy up on your giving in that particular year. And then you might want to take time to think about how you want that gift to be deployed, or you may know that you want to actually distribute those funds through grants over multiple years. You might want some support from the community foundation to find out what the most exciting opportunities might be.
Or your greatest need might be.
Where the greatest need might be, where the kind of impact that you want to have might be possible. And then we have a platform that allows a fund holder to go online and see at a glance what is the value of their fund, what grants have been made, what contributions have come in. It can be a really wonderful way for folks to engage other generations of a family into the philanthropic work that someone wants to begin. And it can also be a really good way to, and one of the reasons that people do that is that they know they want to make an estate gift, but they want to begin to set the stage for that in their lives. So they want to start to establish that purpose and to begin to sort of break ground before that time that they know that they are likely to have funds that will be transferred.
And potentially mentoring their children or their adult children in terms of how they expect them to contribute or carry it forward.
Yeah, for sure. And donor advised funds are a rapidly growing sort of way in which people are participating in community philanthropy. And so, we've seen more and more folks interested in setting up those.
What does shared generosity mean to you personally?
I think for me, it's really about creative action. Like, I think that we are in a moment where we are facing some significant challenges: climate, economic, and affordability challenges. There's a lot of uncertainty. We're still
Social consciousness.
We're still shaking off I think some of the things that were hard during the pandemic. And folks are experiencing a lot of anxiety. I know I have many things that keep me up at night, hopes and worries. And for me, it is, and I think it is true for folks that acting is healing. It helps us find our joy. It helps us reconnect to our kind of love of life when we can take action. And I think that also when we can experience that in community, so when we can feel the strength of others' pulling alongside us, then that's magic.
If you could leave our listeners with one message about the power of community, what would you want them to remember?
I would say we can meet this moment and we can be hopeful in our own capacity to work together to create, rejuvenate, sustain the kind of community that we want to be a part of and that we want to provide access to for others. And yeah, I really think we can meet this moment if we take it, if we step forward and do that. And so I would say to folks, get involved, find an access point that is genuinely meaningful to you, and get involved. Just do something, start from wherever you find yourself, and let's get at it.
Whether that's $25 or developing a fund or anywhere in between.
Anywhere in between. Even sign up for our newsletter. So you're
Call up.
Or sit down. I'll sit down and have coffee with anybody. Okay. If anyone is interested in even just talking about what kind of interests, where their values lie, and are curious to hear about opportunities, get involved.
And not just individuals, but local corporations or businesses.
Oh, absolutely. We certainly support a lot of local organizations, businesses in activating their philanthropic activities. And yeah, for sure. There's a way for virtually any kind of community member to get involved.
Amazing, Laurie. Thanks so much for reminding us of the importance of community and how together we really can make a difference. Really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks, Nancy.
And for our listeners out there, learn more, reach out, get involved. And there's usually someone around at the foundation's office on Banff Avenue 4 days a week. And go to banffcanmorefoundation.org. Between Peaks was produced and edited by Calder Penny at Farside Films. Executive Director Courtney Babbitt at Widely Open, and music by Arn Smith. A big thank you to the whole Banff Canmore Foundation team. We also want to thank all of our guests, our volunteers, our funders, and every community member.